The Galactic War Memorial on Centauri Prime contains detailed records of every major conflict in recorded history. Visitors from across the galaxy come to study the strategic decisions, technological innovations, and heroic sacrifices that shaped civilized space. But there is one section that most species avoid entirely, the wing dedicated to the Terran defensive campaign. Ambassador Crixtel of the Altarian Collective had made the mistake of bringing his young nephew to the memorial, thinking it would be educational. Now he stood before the Earth conflict display, watching the child's bioluminescent patches flicker with confusion and growing horror. "Uncle," the young Altarian whispered, "the records show the Kethmoran Empire had 1,200 capital ships. How did the humans win with only 43? Crixtel's tentacles curled inward, a defensive gesture his species had evolved over millennia. "They didn't win through superior numbers, Velinex. They won through superior tactics." The holographic display showed the opening moves of what had been intended as humanity's swift conquest. The Kethmoran Empire, backed by 6 allied species, had launched what they calculated would be a 3-week campaign to subjugate the aggressive newcomers from Sol system. The war had lasted 3 days. "The Kethmorans made a fundamental error," Crixtel explained, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had lived through the aftermath. "They assumed humans would fight like civilized species, with honor codes, formal battle formations, and respect for non-combatants." The display shifted to show the Battle of Luna Station, where human forces had appeared to suffer a crushing defeat. Their lunar defense grid had been eliminated, their orbital platforms destroyed, and their primary fleet scattered. The Kethmoran war songs had proclaimed victory even as their fleets moved toward Earth itself. "But uncle, if the humans lost their defenses, how did they?" "They didn't lose," Crixtel interrupted softly. "They retreated. There's a difference." The next sequence showed what galactic military academies now taught as the most terrifying tactical maneuver in recorded history. As the Kethmoran fleet approached Earth, confident in their overwhelming superiority, every single human vessel they had destroyed reappeared from the asteroid belt, the gas giant moons, and the dark spaces between planets. "The humans had been studying us for months," Crixtel continued, his nephew's bioluminescence now pulsing with rapid, frightened patterns. "They knew our battle formations, our communication frequencies, our cultural blind spots. While we were preparing for an honorable conquest, they were preparing for total war." The hologram displayed the final 12 hours of the conflict. Human ships, too small and numerous for traditional targeting systems, swarmed the massive Kethmoran dreadnoughts like insects attacking giants. They targeted life support, communications, and propulsion systems with surgical precision, leaving enemy vessels crippled but intact, their crews trapped but alive to witness what came next. "The psychological warfare was the most devastating part," Crixtel admitted. "Humans didn't just defeat the invasion fleet. They hijacked the enemy communication networks and broadcast the entire battle back to every world in the Kethmoran Empire. Billions watched their invincible navy being dismantled by creatures they had dismissed as primitive." Young Velianex made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "But surely that was the end? Once they'd won?" Crixtel's bioluminescence dimmed to almost nothing. "That's when the humans revealed their true nature. Instead of destroying the defeated fleets, they repaired them. They provided medical aid to enemy wounded. They sent the survivors home with a message." The final display showed human cargo ships delivering food and medical supplies to war-ravaged Kethmoran colonies, human engineers helping to repair damaged infrastructure, human doctors treating wounded enemy civilians without asking for payment or concessions. "What was the message, Uncle?" "That humans don't fight wars to conquer or destroy. They fight wars to end them permanently." Crixtel gestured toward the memorial central display, where casualty figures from the 3-day conflict glowed in stark numerals. "0 human civilian casualties. 0 enemy civilian casualties. 0 permanent territorial changes. But every species in the galaxy learned the same lesson. The lesson was carved into the memorial wall in every known galactic language. Humans will defend themselves with overwhelming force, then heal their enemies with overwhelming compassion. Attack them only if you're prepared for both. Is that why no one has declared war on Earth since? Velianix asked. No, Crixtel replied quietly. No one has declared war on Earth because everyone realized the same terrifying truth: humans don't just win wars. They turn enemies into allies, conquest into cooperation, and victory into lasting peace. They're not just unbeatable in battle. They're unbeatable at everything that comes after. As they left the memorial, young Velianix looked back at the Terran display one final time. The most frightening thing about humans, he realized, wasn't their capacity for war. It was their capacity for forgiveness.